Now, more than ever, there is a demand for nurse writers. Nurses are supplementing their income from the comfort of their own home. Some of them are even going full-time with their writing. And the best part is, you don't have to have any previous writing experience to get started. Today, we talk with Janine Kelbach and learn how she started writing and how she now helps other nurses to do the same. You don't want to miss this episode. Welcome to the Stay at Home Nurse Podcast. I'm your host, Deanna Cooper Gillingham. For over 25 years, I've strived to use my nurse credentials to find work that fit my lifestyle, whether it was raising my 4 children and 3 fur babies, traveling the world, or moving to Mexico and living on the Caribbean Sea. Sometimes I succeeded, and sometimes I failed, but I always learned from the experience. Now, I want to help you by sharing what worked and what didn't work. There are so many opportunities out there for nurses today. The Stay at Home Nurse Podcast will inspire and equip you to have a nursing career that is meaningful and supports your lifestyle. Now let's get started. Today we have something special. We have a guest for the first time on the podcast. So I would like to welcome Janine. Janine, could you introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are?
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. And I'm Janine Kelbach. I am the owner of the Savvy Scribe podcast and writern.net, and I'm a content writer and a nurse.
Awesome. So I think it's so exciting for nurses to realize that they can do something outside of the bedside. And I like to bring opportunities to the nurses to let them know people who are succeeding doing this. And you are definitely succeeding doing this. So just to kind of give people a little bit of our backstory, we met years ago when you were writing your Nursepreneur book. And I think that was the first book that you wrote. Is that right?
Yes. And you kept telling me I'm going to write another one. I haven't yet, but yes, it was my first and only book right now. But yeah, you kind of inspired me to write it. And it was always something I just wanted to do, not, make millions or anything on it. But yeah, it's called Entrepreneurs. 30 plus nurses turn into business owners and share their secrets to success.
Awesome. Well, it's so exciting. And it was so fun working with you, and you have so much energy. So you have done a lot since then, a lot. And I guess if you could just give a brief story of how you got into writing and what you're doing now.
Sure. So I got into writing back in 2012, 2013. I had my second son in 2012, and I was the nurse at the bedside who was tired of picking up extra and ended up doing an extra PRN job on the side. And during that PRN job, I was working a lot of hours, and it was a home care job. So I was putting in a lot of hours and in very dangerous neighborhoods because I was in the inner city of Cleveland seeing pregnant women, which I loved. I loved my patients, but I didn't love the risk to my life every time I went out to their houses every week. And it turned into, I had to take care of my grandma who was on hospice. And I was just like kicking around the ideas on the internet of making money on the side as a nurse. I always enjoyed writing. And I found that I could use that skill and make money. I didn't even know what like a freelance writer was back then. So I just did the Google navigating and started writing for healthline.com and really started to build my own business. I met Carol Bush, who you also know, and she mentored me a little bit more, and along with like Elizabeth Haynes, who's also a nurse writer out there, and other writers in my life and other nurses in my life. But those two, and also other freelancers that aren't nurses, taught me that business side and, kind of how to pitch and how to find clients and such, on that freelance business type of venture. So then I kind of took it into my own hands and started my own business of helping nurses become writers and start their own writing businesses.
Wow, that's awesome. I love how you talk about the business end of it. A lot of us, I know me, it's like, okay, I'm going to write. And you figure you're going to write and somebody will read it. And as nurses or as writers or whatever we do, we don't think about all the business end of it, the marketing and how do you get the clients and do you like getting clients and, how do you get paid what you're worth and how do you know how much to get paid and how do you pitch a client? So I think it's wonderful because I know when you started, there was nothing out there other than finding mentors that were willing to work with you to help you to figure it all out. So I love, love that you've done both the Savvy Scribe podcast and the Growth Lab course. So tell us a little bit about that.
So I knew that I was doing like some coaching with other writers. I was in a mastermind group with Carol and like 4 other writers, and realized that we had kind of a gift to help people do this. We realized it because people quit their nursing jobs and took on writing full time and made 6 figures and did all those things. And granted, I'm still at the bedside part time because now I love my nursing job again. I love delivering babies and I don't have a desire to totally leave the bedside, but they did, or, their health or whatever it was made them leave the bedside, but they were able to still make an income from home. So we realized we had this gift, we meaning Carol and I, and we started last year more coaching. And what I realized is that it was constantly the same questions. And like you said, it's that business side that we don't learn in nursing school by any means. And it's kind of intimidating because you are a little bit scared. You're nervous to try out things and nervous to do something wrong or something with legality or something to even like impede your nursing license or something. We don't want that. So I created a course called Plan, Create, Launch, Land, and Grow Your Health Writing Business. And it's available on my website. And I go through right now, I have 39 lessons, but I am right now creating a ton of content to just keep adding to that because I truly want it to be a course that's like a roadmap for nurses that want to do this. So it truly walks you through, holds your hand lesson by lesson. And what's cool is that the lessons are very short and digestible. They're kind of like mini podcasts, but within it you have the PowerPoint presentation to download and you have little downloadable worksheets and stuff like that to be able to take it at your own pace or as fast as you want at the same time.
I think that's wonderful. I know a lot of times figuring it out yourself is not the best roadmap, especially if you want to do something quickly. And I love how you've actually have that proof of concept where you have people that have actually been able to quit their full-time jobs, even though you haven't. And I love that you haven't because I loved what you said about, I love nursing again.
Yes.
And when you have the choice of doing something instead of having to do something, it can make all the difference in the world as far as your attitude. Now you can go in as much or as little as you want, and you can enjoy it again instead of it being something that you have to do. So I love that you brought that up.
That's when it like really hit me. Honestly, when I was working and I was like dreading like going to work, I'm like, what kind of nurse am I that dreads going to deliver someone's child? Like, this is not me. I love this work. And now, like you said, I love it again. And I enjoy going to work. It's definitely a different side of my brain. And that's the thing with writing too. It's a different side of your brain. You get to be creative. You get to work on your own, which is totally a different mindset than working on the floors.
Yeah, I've also been a nurse who always had what I call a side hustle, like a side job or something on the side. And I always did it inside of nursing. And I think that was the hard part because you get burned out so easily because you're doing it every single day. So the idea of taking your nursing credentials, taking your nursing knowledge and your expertise and putting it to use while working at home, more on your own schedule, being a freelancer, I think that is really something that a lot of nurses would probably be interested in. And I think it's very beneficial. My hope with this podcast and my goal with this podcast was to give nurses options to love nursing again. When I was hearing about the large numbers of nurses that were leaving the profession, I just thought there has to be something we could do. And this is something that you can do. Mm-hmm. When you can supplement your income with something where you're still using your expertise and you're still using your knowledge and you're teaching people, I think it's wonderful. But okay, so I have some questions for you. What kind of writing do people do? What kind of writing do nurses do? Do they write books? Do they write fiction, nonfiction? What are you helping them to do?
Sure. So what I'm helping nurses do is A lot. With blog writing, a lot of web content is usually what I start to help nurses do with the writing business. But that doesn't limit you just to that. With my own writing business, I started writing web copy kind of stuff, like for web pages and articles, but then I got opportunities to write courses, and that's something I enjoy. Now, you ask other nurses, they hate that type of writing. But what's cool is, like nursing, you can kind of specialize in whatever you want. A friend of mine, Maureen Bonatch, she writes fiction and she writes web copy and other types of things. But you can kind of do whatever you want with it. I know nurses that write very technical type of pieces and nurses that write pharmaceutical type of pieces, some that write research studies. They do the protocols for those. But again, that's really mind draining for me. So I choose to write blog articles mostly. And what's cool is we have a Savvy Scribe Growth Lab. We have Savvy Scribe Podcast, and we also have the Savvy Scribe Collective over on Facebook. So it's a free community. And you could just like go in there, ask your questions, just test out the water, see if it's something for you. And I am now approached by so many clients for a writer, and my bandwidth is getting so big that I now subcontract with writers too, nurses, so they can even start making a little bit of money while they're out looking for their own clients too. So that's a benefit of the course, is you're now in that group too. Obviously, if you're buying the course and you're ready to launch, you get to have some writing opportunities as well.
I bet that is very popular. I know for a lot of people, especially nurses, selling is very hard. We hate to sell.
Oh, and that's the other thing. Did you ever, when your side businesses, did you try like some sort of like
oh yes,
pampered chef or?
I absolutely hated it, and I was the worst at it. And I thought that meant I would be a failure at business, but it doesn't. It just means that's not for you, and it is for some people, and they're so good at it. But it wasn't for me.
Sure, I know. Not me either. Oh, the other cool thing with my course is you get CEUs too. So I said it's kind of cool because Catherine Berger is somebody who helped me with that. She was like, I think it's just another thing for nurses. If there's something you're interested in doing and it might be writing, why not get some CEUs for your license as well? So you get 2.1 right now CEUs for it. So
I love that.
Why not, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you have to get CEUs anyway to get your nursing license. So why not? I think I've actually done another podcast on that where it's like, why not use it for something that you would actually be interested in and maybe making yourself more marketable? And what is more marketable than being able to go out and get clients on your own and write? So I think that's awesome.
Right. And what's cool, like you said, you can do as little with it or as much as you want. It can pick up a 12-hour shift, or you might just want to write an article to eventually go get your nails done when COVID-19 lifts.
Yes. And I think that's one of the great things. It can just be something you do on the side for vacation money or new car money or whatever, or it could actually be a pivot in your career. And maybe you just want to go part-time, but you don't know how to go part-time, or you want to go PRN and you don't know how. This could fill in that monetary gap for you. Something else I wanted to ask you about is one of the things that I had to learn when I started writing and blogging and writing books and all that. I had to learn about SEO. And I'm sure that most of the nurses that are listening to this have no idea what that is. And I think that's one of the things I want to point out with when you take a course like this, you don't even know what you don't know. So you didn't even know SEO was out there, but yet it is one of the most important things if you're writing web copy. Do you want to just talk just maybe really brief on that? I'm sure most people probably aren't interested, but at least it gives you an idea of the off the wall things that you have to learn to be successful with something like this.
Sure. SEO, search engine optimization. Yes. And I am constantly learning about the craft of writing, the business of writing. I'm still, like nursing, always learning something. And SEO is one of those things that I still am constantly learning. I'm learning about that. I'm learning about strategies with different social platforms too. You don't understand until you're in it, the Facebook algorithm and the LinkedIn algorithm and the Instagram algorithm, all these things that exist that, reading one thing 3 years ago is totally different than what it is nowadays. So it is it's kind of like your professional practice. You're always going to be building on your knowledge, and SEO is just one little thing when it comes to blogging. And what that is SEO, it changed. There used to be keywords that people gave me, and I would try to put those keywords into an article, and you would see a lot of people, it's like almost like robots that would put these keyword stuffing is what they would call it into articles just to get them ranked higher on Google. And now that is, Google got smart, and Google says, you know what, we are getting rid of that keyword stuffing. We are only looking at articles that sound like somebody actually wrote it. So if you're speaking patient-friendly language to a patient, it's going to recognize you more. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to put some keywords in, but you do want to rank on Google. So you want to, maybe there's different ways you want to write an article, and you want to use H1 headline, meaning like a topic headline, and then H2, which are like subtopic headlines, a lot of bullets, a lot of lists, and that stuff is read. And when you start to incorporate that into a blog article, it really gets to be seen. The other thing that Google does is called the Google Eat strategy. And the Google Eat strategy, like you're eating something, is experience, authority, and trust leadership, I think is what it is. But either way, what it means is that nurses are really good for this because we have a degree. So if we are blogging something for a company that needs some clinical content, they are going to look for a person with a degree. Why not have a nurse write it? So they're going to choose a nurse to write something over somebody that is just a health writer. That being said, they also would look for a doctor who would have that MD after them to rank even higher. So if you go on WebMD, if you go on Healthline, you'll see that all the articles written on there are done by someone in the health-related area that has a degree.
And that makes it really exciting for those of us who want to write, because companies now know that they have to pay a professional to write and not just pay somebody that, they just do some research and write it, but they have no idea what they're talking about. So I think that's great. And I think it's really exciting that you put this in place so that somebody who has the talent of writing can learn all the other things, because it takes years, and you've been doing this for years. And that's why you're so successful, is because you've had to learn. A lot of it was trial and error, I'm sure. And a lot of it was from your mentors.
Oh yeah.
But all of that learning, now you've packaged it up into a nice little package, and you're sharing it with others. And I think that's wonderful. So I think that this is probably a good place. You gave us some really good information for us to talk about how people can get in touch with you. So because they're listening to a podcast, I would expect that they would be interested in your podcast. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the Savvy Scribe podcast, it's a podcast for health care professionals who want to build profitable writing businesses. So if you're interested in starting a business, it kind of walks you through. I talked to a bunch of leaders and people in the industry, not so much just nurses, but people that are in the writing side of it, that talk about building their businesses and how to network with other writers and such. So the podcast is definitely helpful. I also have like a little opt-in. If you go to the SavvyScribePodcast.com, you'll get just like some tips, 5 actionable tips just to start your business today. And also like 3 questions to ask yourself to see if becoming a nurse writer would be right for you. Also, I have another freebie on my course page that's, and you hear me all the time, like converting the nursing thinking into a writing business. So I also have a course that's free, and it's called The Nursing Process for Booking a Writing Client. So it's like a done-for-you care plan for prospects. So you could actually use the nursing process we all know and hate, right? We all know and hate that we actually can put towards gaining writing clients. So all these freebies, just because I think nurses need guidance, and we're busy, especially again with the COVID-19. We're homeschooling. But right now I think is like a huge time for nurses to try and find something on the side, because we are getting so burnt out at the bedside.
Yes. And I'm so glad that you have these options for people to kind of get their feet wet and just do a little thinking. I know I talked before about how you were good at writing. When you started writing, you were good to start. But I had been writing nurses' notes for so long, I couldn't write a complete sentence. So I had to start with baby steps of like taking a class on how to write. And yeah. So I was even more behind than you were, but you have far excelled with just the whole writing thing. I think it's awesome. And I love the way that you're teaching others. So I would invite anyone to really look into this and think about it. If it's something that you want to do that's beyond the bedside, that you have all these years of expertise and all this knowledge, and if you think you'd like to share it with others in the form of writing, check in with Janine. She has so much resource, so much knowledge, and if she can't help you, I'm sure she can send you to the right person who can. So with that, Janine, where else can people find you? I know you mentioned your Facebook group.
Yes, my website, writern.net, like you're writing something, rn.net, and LinkedIn. I'm always on LinkedIn. I think it's a great platform.
Okay, great. We're going to have links to all of these in the show notes. So if you check out the show notes, you can just click on the link and it'll take you directly to all of these places that Janine mentioned, and you can find her there. And I really hope some people kind of start exploring this. I think it's a great way to get your feet wet, and it's a low commitment thing, just writing. You can kind of practice it on your own. You can show people that, in your group, you can even like just share and say, hey, what do you think? Because I know the first time I wrote anything, I thought, this is so stupid. Nobody's going to like this. They're going to laugh at me. So it's really nice to have other people that you can show it to. And they're like, no, that's actually pretty good. So, okay.
Well, and the other thing to help, I always tell writers this, and you say I'm good at writing. I don't think I'm good at writing. I think I'm okay at writing. I think my editor is really the person who saves my butt. I think writers hate editors, but we love them so much because they hurt our feelings when they edit our work, but then they're like, make it so much better. And you're like, thank you, editor. Like, what would I do without you? And that's what I tell a lot of my nurses who are, if you gain your first client and you're nervous about it and you're afraid your writing isn't good enough, because we all think our writing isn't good enough because it's called imposter syndrome. Like, you just never think you're a writer because we didn't go to school for it. You might think you're a good nurse because you went to school to it and you've been practicing for a while, but when you're first a nurse, same thing at the bedside. You didn't think you were good, but you were probably good. You just didn't know what you didn't know yet. And I think editors give us that, like, it's okay. Your writing needed editing, but it's okay. Go ahead and submit it. So you get that little bit of like, kind of feeling before you submit something. So that's another tip.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. The first thing that I did was actually a compilation book, kind of like what you did with your Nursepreneur book. And I only had to write like 2.5 pages or something. And when it came back from the editor, there were so many red marks on that I just wanted to cry. But then I realized
wanted to. I do. I'm like, oh gosh, this is why I should just go back to the bedside.
Yes. But then I'm like, wow, they make me sound smart. Like, they can take your gobbledygook that you're just trying to spit out there. And then when I wrote the entire book, the CCM Certification Made Easy book, it was, oh my gosh, it took me over 2 weeks just to go through and like approve, which I approved all of her edits. They make a suggestion and then you have to approve it.
Of course.
And it's like, well, why wouldn't I approve it? Because you make me sound so smart. And
exactly.
After that, I was like, I will never publish something without an editor again, because I didn't realize how much they really help you. They're like, I don't know how to explain it, but they make you look so much better than we're good. We know what we're doing, but they make it palpable and they make it so that you can somebody can read it and understand it. And it sounds professional. And that's what I love about editors.
That's why I like podcasting, because I can just talk and it's okay. But if you ever get anything transcribed, you read it, you're like, oh God, did I really say that?
I've had a couple transcribed and I was like, I don't talk like that, do I?
Show notes are just so much better. Let's just link it up.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it. You have been a fantastic first guest, and I'm really excited to see if anybody in the group will decide to start writing. I think it's really exciting. We need more healthcare writers out there. We need more nurses. We are the ones who can take the complicated information that's medical jargon and make it easy and understandable. And that's our talent. And we can do that by writing.
Exactly. And, I've had nurses say to me, Janine, why are you giving away this stuff for free? Why are you giving away all these tips? And because I will tell you, like you said, we need healthcare writers and the work is there. There is no famine right now because of COVID-19. Like, there is a lot of work out there. I've never seen it where I can't find clients. People are always looking for blog posts and articles and stuff to rank their website. So that is why I give it away for free, because why not? Like, I'm not scared that the work's going to run out.
Right. It's sharing the wealth.
Yep. Exactly.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being on. We are going to wrap up this episode, and I think we're going to have Janine back. I think she has some really good information, and we will take some topics and come back and hash those out too. We talked a lot today, and we will come back again and maybe revisit some of these a little deeper at another time. Would that be great?
That'd be awesome. I appreciate you so much, Deanna.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This was the first interview episode we have done. I really enjoyed our conversation with Janine. I would love your feedback. Would you like more interview episodes? Is there someone you would like to hear on the show? Shoot me an email to hello@thestayathomenurse.com and let me know what you think. And don't forget to share this episode with a nurse you think needs to hear it.